In this week's Parsha, Parshat Balak, we have the story of a sorcerer who is sent by the king of Moab to curse Israel. And towards the end of the Parsha, in his attempt to curse Israel, he ends up blessing them. And his part of his blessing goes like this: how can I curse whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce whom God has not denounced? From the top of the crags, I see them. From the hills, I gaze down. A people that dwells alone, not reckoning itself among the nations. Now, this whole speech that the sorcerer Balaam gives is actually meant, in his attempt to curse, is meant to be a blessing. But when we hear that this is a people destined to be alone, is that a blessing or is that a curse? We certainly know that anti-Semitism has been a reality of our people throughout history, in the Middle Ages because of religion, in the 18th and 19th century because of race, and then in the 21st century because of having a nation state, Israel. And for many of us, when we look at the news and we hear the way that Israel is portrayed on a global stage, whether it's human rights reports from the United Nations or Amnesty International that calls Israel an apartheid, oppressive state, we can't help but feel alone, like there's not a recognition of the complex reality that Israel faces in the Middle East and the incredible democratic reality that is a part of Israel and the light that it shines in the Middle East. So what I want to suggest is that this nation alone, this sense of alone, really means is that it's a people that we're prepared to stand alone if needed, living by our own moral code, having the courage to be different and to take the road less traveled. Sometimes doing what's right is lonely. And one of the things that's true about Israel is that we're fundamentally a people more than we are a nation. And Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch draws the distinction between the word people, and goy, nation, or what we would say now, society and a state. Israel was a society, a people, before it had a state. It had laws before land. It was a people bound together by a common code and culture, and before it was a nation. So the question is who are we as a people? What do we stand for? And is that worth it? Is it worth being alone for that? I think that one of the places that we're in here in the 21st century is when we really take in the reality of the ways that we are alone. There are two responses we may have. One is to cut ourselves off, is to just relate with other Jews and really insulate. Another response is to try to be like everybody else, to not upplay our Jewishness, our difference, to just try to be a good person and blend in. And then there's another option, which is to be able to stand in our uniqueness, to shine the light that we are, to be bold and proud and expressive about our Jewishness and what it stands for, and to reach out and build relationships with all kinds of people, to say that being alone does not mean that we're really alone, that in the human family, we share the same common values, the same aspirations. And there are others that want to stand with us with trying to live those aspirations in our life. So as we move into Shabbat, I want to invite us to both hold that solidness and that power of what it means to be part of the people Israel, and at the same time, have an open heart that reaches out and makes connections and nourishes relationships with people of all kinds. Shabbat Shalom.